Hello everyone, I'm Priyadarshini Mara, faculty at the Department of Buddhist Studies, University of Delhi. Today I'm going to discuss with you module number 11, and this module constitutes paper number 11 of Philosophy of Buddhism. The module is titled as The Concept of Buddha and Bodhisattva. So here what we're going to do today is we'll divide the sections into two. First, I'm going to talk to you about the concept of Buddhas, and then I'm going to talk to you about Bodhisattva. So let us begin with the concept of Buddha. In Buddhism, there have been a lot of Buddha according to different traditions. In every tradition of Buddhism, Buddha is called by different name. So therefore, the concept of Buddha is widely seen in Theravada Buddhism, where as the Theravada Buddhism is widely practiced in majority of countries of Southeast Asia like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, etc. So it is customary of Buddhists to celebrate the festival, especially during the fair weather season, and that time homage is paid to all 28 Buddha described in Vidya-mitra. When we talk about the Southeast Asian countries where Theravada Buddhism is predominant, we see that Theravadins believe in a number of Buddhas. So they believe in the existence of a number of Buddhas. According to them, there are 28 Buddhas, and this has been enumerated in their major text called Vidya-mitra. We see that when the weather is fairly good enough, there is a homage or there is a fair that leads to the homage paid to these 28 Buddha. Vidya-mitra is a Pali text which describes the life of Gautam Buddha and also of the 27 Buddha from where he learned what Buddhism is. So there is an enumeration of all the 28 Buddhas together. As the Vidya-mitra is part of Pali text called as Khudak Nikai, which later in turn formulated in Sutta Pitaka. Therefore, Sutta Pitaka is later on, it is counted as main Pali canon of Theravada Buddhism. The 7 Buddhas of antiquity, when we look into these 7 Buddhas of antiquity, we see that in Buddhist tradition, each kalp has 1,000 Buddhas. Now what is a kalp? Kalp is made up of years. But these are Buddhas which are based on text of Pali canon, which are considered to be important. Then rest of 29 Buddhas. The previous kalp was the Vyu kalp or glorious aeon, and the present kalp is called Bhadra kalp or auspicious aeon. The 7 Buddhas of antiquity, which is also known as Sapt Tathagat, are 7 Buddhas which bridge the Vyuha kalp and Bhadra kalp. So these are following. One is Vipassi, the 998th Buddha of Vyuha kalp. Sikhi, the 999th Buddha of Vyuha kalp. Visabhu, the 1000th and final Buddha of Vyuha kalp. Kakusandh, the first Buddha of Bhadra kalp. Kona Gaman, the second Buddha of Bhadra kalp. Kasap, the third Buddha of Bhadra kalp. And Gautam, the fourth and the present Buddha of Bhadra kalp. So when we talk about the Bhadrakalp and Vyuhokalp give rise to Bhadrakalp, or there are certain Buddhs which which formulate a bridge between Vyuhokalp and Bhadrakalp. And they are known as, when we talk about Vyuhakalp, we have Vipassi, Sikhi, Vesabhu. And when we talk about Bhadrakalp, we have Kakusand, Konagaman, Kasap, and in the end, the present Buddha of Bhadrakalp, and the fourth and the present Buddha of Bhadrakalp, who is Gautam. Following the 7 Buddhas of antiquity will be Maitreya, the 5th and the future Buddha of Bhadrakalp. So we have Maitreya, who is going to be the future Buddha of Bhadrakalp, and he will be the 5th Buddha of Bhadrakalp. Details of following Buddhas are Vipassi. In Buddhist tradition, Vipassi Pali is the 22nd of 28 Buddhas described in 27th chapter of Buddha-vams. So now don't get confused. What we're trying to say is, when we talk about Vipassi, who is supposed to be the Buddha of Vyuhokalp, we see that Vipassi is the 22nd of 28 Buddhas described in chapter number 27 of Pali text Buddha-vams. The Pali word Vipassi has the Sanskrit form which means Vipassini. Vi means good and Passi means saw. Together means having seen clearly. The word belongs to the same family as the term Vipassana or contemplation. This Buddha was so named because he had big eyes, clear vision both day and night, and his insight into perpetual complicated circumstances and very deep theories. According to Buddha-vams, as well as traditional Buddhist legend and mythology, Vipassi lived 90 kalps or eons, many millions of years, before the present time. In Vipassi's time, the longevity of human was 84,000 years. He was reported to have died in Sumit Park at the age of either 80,000 or 100,000 years. His relics were kept in a stoop which was 7 yojanas in height, which is roughly equal to 56 miles, that is 90 kilometers. Now, we've talked about Vipassi Buddha, and we've seen that he must have lived according to the legends and mythologies. He must have lived around 84,000 years or 100,000 years. This is the astonishing feature of how beautifully these mythologies describe various genres of philosophy as well as historical aspects. Coming to the second Buddha, which is Sikhi Buddha, and he also belongs to Vyuhokalp. According to the text of Pali Buddha-vams and Buddhist mythology, this is 23rd of 28 Buddhas. This penultimate Buddha of the adorned, he is called Sikhi because his turban, which looks like a sikha or flame. According to Buddha-vams as well as traditional Buddhist legend, Sikhi lived 31 kalp, many millions of years before the present time. He was born in Arunavati, which is located in the Dhule district of Maharashtra in present-day India. This Buddha lived in the place of Sukant, Giri and Vahana for 7,000 days until he renounced from the worldly life. He practiced asceticism for 8 months. He is reported to have died in Dusarama, which is a place somewhere near Silavati river. He practiced the teaching or first sermon in Mrigrachir Park to 100,000 disciples and gave a sermon to 80,000 disciples and third to 70,000 disciples. The physical characteristic of Sikhi Buddha was 37 cubit tall, and which is roughly equal to 56 feet. So these were the characteristics and place of birth of Sikhi Buddha. Now when we talk about Vesabhu, we see that Vesabhu Buddha is the 24th Buddha. He was born in the place of Anoma. Commentary says it to be Anupam. His father being Kshatriya and his mother Yashavati. He is venerated by the Theravada, Mahayana as well as Vajrayana tradition. For 6,000 years, Vesabhu lived in the household in 3 palaces, which is Ruchi, Suruchi and Vadhan. His wife was Suchita and their son Supabudh. He left home in the golden palanquin, practiced austerities for 6 months, was given rice, milk by Siri Vandhana of Suchigatnigam and grass to sit by Nag King Narendra and attained enlightenment under a sal tree. He preached his first sermon at Anuram to his brothers Son and Uttar, who became his chief disciples. So this is the life story about Vesabhu Buddha. Now coming to next one, we have Kaku Sant. According to Theravada Buddhist tradition, Kaku Sant is the 25th of the 29 named Buddhas, the 4th of the 7 Buddhas of antiquity, the first of the 5 Buddhas of present Kalp. So when we have this Kaku Sant, we see that he is the 25th of 29 names of the Buddha, the 4th of the 7 Buddhas of antiquity and the first of the 5 Buddhas of present Kalp. Kaku Sant Buddha was born in Khemwati Park in Khemwati. Khemwati is now known as Gothihava and it is located about 4 kilometers southeast of Kapilavastu in Kapilavastu district in Lumbini, which is the southern Nepal. This Buddha lived only for 4,000 years. He practiced the austerities for 8 months during his life period. Then we have Konga Gaman Buddha. Konga Gaman Buddha was known as Kanakamuni in Sanskrit, also known as Konagon or Kanaka Gamana, is one of the ancient Buddhas whose biography is chronicled in chapter 23 of Buddhavams, one of the Pali books or the canons. According to Theravada Buddhist tradition, Konagamana is the 26th of the 29 Buddhas. He is the 5th of the 7 Buddhas of antiquity and the 2nd of the 5 Buddhas of the present Kalp seen in Pali tradition. Konagamana was born in Subhagwati Park in Sobhwati, which now is known as Arura Kot, located 3 kilometers southwest of Nigali Hawa. On Wednesday, because of this, Konagamana is placed on Wednesday pedestal. He was born on Wednesday. This is the reason he's been placed on Wednesday pedestal. According to Zhuangzang, Konagaman's relics were held in a stoop in Negali Sagar, in what is now Kapila Vastu district in southern Nepal. There is an Ashok pillar at the site today. Now we come to Kasap Buddha. Kasap Buddha, known as Kashyap in Sanskrit, is one of the ancient Buddhas whose biography is chronicled in chapter 24 of Buddhavamsa of the Pali Canon. According to Theravada Buddhist tradition, Kasap is 27th of the 29 named Buddhas. He is the 6th of the 7 Buddhas of antiquity and the 3rd of the 5 Buddhas of the present Kalp seen in the text. Kasap was born in Isipatan Deer Park. This place is located in Varanasi, a city in the modern-day state of Uttar Pradesh in northern India. He practiced austerities for only 7 days. Just before attaining enlightenment, he accepted a meal of milk rice from his wife and grass to sit from a person named Som. His Bodhi tree, the tree under which he attained enlightenment, was banyan tree, and he preached his first sermon at Isipatan to an assembly of monks who had renounced the world in his company. He died in the city of Kashi in Kashi kingdom in Uttar Pradesh. And then we have in the end Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha, also known as Siddhartha Gautam, Sakyamuni, or simply the Buddha, was a sage on whose teachings Buddhism was founded in every text of Buddhism. He is believed to have lived and taught mostly in northeastern India sometime between the 6th and 4th century BCE. The word Buddha means awakened one or the enlightened one. Buddha is also used as a title for first awakened being in a yug or era. In most Buddhist traditions, Siddhartha Gautam is regarded as the supreme Buddha, or which in Pali is known as Samma Sambuddha and in Sanskrit as Samyak Sambuddha. Of the present age, Gautam Buddha taught a middle way, and that was his one of simple teachings taught to people. So when we talk about Buddhism, we see that it was founded by Sakyamuni Buddha, and it is not a religion at all. It is the teaching of the middle way. Teaching of the middle way points out to the denial or to the unacceptance of the extreme ways of living. Rather, it is the following of the middle path, which is the avoidance of two extremes. As life of Buddha were all aware of it. Then we come to concept of Buddha. We see that his life is clearly endowed with purification in the attainment of liberation. Buddha is something who is present. Gautam Buddha is someone who is present in the Bhadrakalpa, and he is the present Buddha, whereas Maitri is going to be the future Buddha. When we talk about Gautam Buddha, we see that he renounced his princely life or a life of all luxuries in order to look for the attainment of Nirvana. And when he attained enlightenment, this is when he started preaching people around him as to what they are doing in the phenomenal existence. What is the reality of this phenomenal existence? It is endowed with suffering. It is conditioned and is temporary, cannot be permanent, and clinging on to it gives us all forms of suffering and pain. He said we need to get out of this in order to look for something which is beyond, and that is the state of nirvana. So, this is the concept of Buddhas according to Buddhism. We have mythological stories and legendary stories where we have number of Buddhas who lived before Sakyamuni Buddha arrived and founded Buddhism. Now, coming to the next section of our module, which is termed as concept of Bodhisattva. The term Bodhisattva literally means one who has attained enlightenment, has enlightenment as his or her essence. By the term Bodhi, we mean awakening or enlightenment, and Sattva means essence. It is not simply another term for a Buddha, though a Bodhisattva is a being who is destined for enlightenment rather than one who has gained it already. A Bodhisattva is also normally thought of as consciously working towards enlightenment. You can't call someone a Bodhisattva just because he or she may be enlightened in future if they have not started making an effort yet. For this reason, the earliest use of the term Bodhisattva refers to Siddhartha Gautama before he gained enlightenment and also in his previous lives. In the Theravada, as in early Buddhism, though this is the only use of term, there is only one Buddha per age who is the one who discovers the Dharma. So for each age, at any rate, there is only one Bodhisattva. An alternative two interlinked new ideas have been developed. What are these two new ideas? We see firstly that the Arhat had not gained full enlightenment and that everyone could go on to gain the full enlightenment of the Buddha. To become a full Buddha, not just an Arhat, was the ideal for everyone, whether monks or lay people. This was the ideal expressed particularly in the Lotus Sutra of Buddhism. Secondly, the idea that was developed was that until such a time as we all have reached Buddhahood, we should become Bodhisattva. This meant that there was no longer only one Bodhisattva per age, but potentially any number. The Bodhisattva is striving for enlightenment for all sentient beings from the very beginning. When we use this term Bodhisattva, we see that a Bodhisattva is the one who has developed the Bodhi-chit or the awareness to enlightenment. And here, the person who has developed Bodhi-chit is not just looking for enlightenment for himself, but for as many sentient beings as possible. Now, when we look at the Bodhisattva vow, we see the mark of a Bodhisattva in the Mahayana is that he or she has taken the Bodhisattva vow. This Bodhisattva vow is solemnly made before one's master in a special ritual and involves 4 pledges. What are these 4 pledges? It is to save all beings from difficulties, to destroy all evil passions, to learn the truth and teach others, to lead all beings to Buddhahood. So these are the vows of a Bodhisattva, which is to save all beings from difficulties, to destroy all evil passions, to learn the truth and teach it to others, to lead all beings to Buddhahood. Now, when we look at the path of a bodhisattva, we see a person who has taken the vow then becomes bodhisattva of the path. This person will have a genuine aspiration to bring all beings to enlightenment, but may still have a long way to go themselves. According to Mahayana tradition, the bodhisattva needs to practice 6, and later Mahayana tradition brought in 4 more, so 10 perfections, which are also known as paramitas. So the early Mahayana tradition said there are 6 perfections in order to become a bodhisattva and attain enlightenment, and later Mahayanists added 4 more perfections or paramitas to 6 already existing paramitas and said that these 10 together are bodhisattva paramitas, are the righteous attitudes which a bodhisattva needs to develop in order to attain enlightenment and ascend through the 10 bhumis. So there are 10 corresponding bhumis, at which bhumis are also known as 10 levels. So here the paramitas are practiced in corresponding bhumis. When we have first paramita, it is practiced in the first bhumi or level. When we talk about the second paramita, it is practiced in the second level or bhumi, and this goes on. And these are the levels of attainment of bodhisattva. In Buddhism, there are 6 paramitas which are necessary to practice to become a bodhisattva. Once you have crossed that level of 6 paramitas, the further 4 are together, that makes 10. But after crossing 6 paramita, a person becomes a bodhisattva and does not return back or does not have any karmic violations. The actions performed after that in order to help other sentient beings, those actions always lead to the attainment of nirvana and not to any amalgamation of violations or resultants. When we talk about paramitas, we see that they are as follows. First, we have Dan paramita, which means perfection of generosity. Then we have Shil paramita, which means perfection of morality. Then we have Shanti paramita, which means perfection of patience. Fourth is Virya paramita, which means perfection of energy. Fifth is Dhyan paramita, which means perfection of meditation. Sixth is Pragya paramita, which means perfection of wisdom. So these are the 6 essential perfections which needs to be developed by a bodhisattva in order to reach that stage where he can attain enlightenment. Now, it totally is choice that he stops there at the level of attaining enlightenment and comes back to the phenomenal existence or to the universal existence where things are endowed with impermanency and conditionedness. And he comes back in order to preach as many people and in order to take as many people as possible onto that path to attain liberation. Now that is the aim of a bodhisattva. When we talk about a bodhisattva just do not seek liberation for himself. Rather, he seeks liberation for as many people as possible, and he works for that with certain vows, and these vows further leads to his perfection and then onto the path of practicing paramita. He moves at 10 levels or 10 bhumis of existence. Now, this is the concept of a bodhisattva. I'm sure you're clear about who a bodhisattva is and what is the concept of Buddhas in Buddhism. When we look at the concept of Buddhas in Buddhism, we see that different traditions of Buddhism come up with various numbers of Buddhas. And when we talk about a bodhisattva, it is said that a bodhisattva can be a male or a female as well. Any person who has developed the nature of being enlightened is called a bodhisattva. For that, a rigorous practice and understanding of the phenomenal existence is equally essential. Only once you are aware that everything around you is endowed with defilements, is endowed with suffering and pain, it is only then that you look for something which lies beyond, and you aspire for something that lies beyond, and that is the attainment of liberation or nirvana, which is a state which is not endowed with any sort of conditions or impermanency. And this is the whole idea or the concept of bodhisattva and Buddhas. I hope you got a good understanding of what we mean when we say the concept of bodhisattva and the concept of Buddhas. Thank you.